children of the living God, I am leading you into victory. There shall be nothing that comes against you that will stand. You are more than conquerors. You are my children, and I am your God.
My children, humble yourselves before me. You shall not stand unless you receive my Spirit. I am pouring out my Spirit upon my people. Without my Spirit you shall not stand.
Father, we just praise you for your word today. Lord, help us to stand with you. Help us to stand for you, God. It's not by power nor by might, but it's by your Spirit. I mean, let's just be honest. How many have a tough time getting motivated? Have a tough time getting motivated. It's Nicole and I were just talking about the change of how technology has kind of changed our lives. And I asked Nicole the other day, I said, do doctors' offices still get magazine subscriptions? Because nobody looks at magazines anymore. Everybody looks at their phones. Everybody just kind of... And the weird thing is, because of our phones, because of applications and things like Facebook and things like games, because of those things, sometimes we have a tough time getting motivated to do real things because we're so busy doing fake things. Does anybody here have a farm? I remember a few years ago when there was a Facebook application where you could be a farmer. It was just, everybody was doing it. It was driving people crazy trying to get big crops and trying to raise money and trying to build barns. And you stop and go, wait a minute, what am I doing all this for? Nothing. Nothing. You don't really have a farm. You have a screen that says you have a farm. I used to tell people, I used to say, yeah, my grandma had a farm, and she had $2.7 million, and she recently passed away, and her family's really frustrated. Why? You inherited a lot of money. Yeah, but none of us know her password. So we can't get to her farm. But we do a lot of things that are, today in our leisure society, are unmotivating. There's a thing they call binge watching. Do you know what binge watching is? Binge watching is where you get like a favorite, like a TV show, and you watch, you sit down and you just watch one show after the other, after the other, after the other. And you say to yourself, well, I should go live my life, but wait a minute, there's 3 more episodes. I'll just watch 1 more episode. You say to yourself, well, maybe I should go live my life. No, wait a minute, there's just 2 more episodes. And there's so much in our lives that what I want to use a term that's not really a term. There's so many things in our lives that unmotivate us. That I believe it's harder today to get motivated about things than it used to be. Because what we do is a lot of times we go for the slow starts or the lazy starts, or we'll say, well, you know, I need to get this, and that done, but first I'll check my messages. And you know what happens once you start doing that? You get distracted. And you get down a rabbit trail. And then 2 hours later, your wife is like, Troy, I've been sitting in the car for an hour and a half. It's like, I can't come now, I'm farming. Don't you respect my farm? But it's one of those things where I find it harder and harder to get motivated. And then the other thing that adds to it is the fact that in today's society, Praise the Lord, I saw the Lord. In today's society, people don't want you to have strong opinions. They don't want you to work too hard. This is serious. You go to a place where manual labor is done, and they don't want you to work too hard because you'll make them look bad. And they can't have a nice, easy day if there's somebody that's sweating all the time doing the work. So not only is our leisure lives attacking us and unmotivating us, but society is telling us to shut up and to slow down. Society wants us just to, don't give your all today. Give it a little bit at a time. Because you'll make us look bad. And so, number one, a lot of us have a strong will, but a poor work ethic. The things we mean to do, we don't. There's a lot of us that have strong wills. There's a lot of you that have dreams, and you have visions, and you have plans, and you have things that God has put in your heart, but there's things that you want to do. But the problem is, the spirit is willing, but the flesh is weak. It's like having a yard that's all torn up. And you open the door, you say, I'm going to make a garden out there. I'm going to bring in some rocks, and I'm going to do some landscaping. And by the time you've told yourself what you're going to do with your yard, you feel so good about it, you don't have to do anything that day. So tomorrow comes, the next day comes, you stand out there and go, now what was I thinking about? Oh yes, I'm going to take some rocks. And you feel good again, you go back inside. And nothing ever gets accomplished. And that's the way a lot of us are. We've got strong wills but weak flesh. And I want to tell you something. If you feel that way about yourself, and if that's the way you are, you're not alone. There's a lot of us that are that way. Even some of the apostles were that way. Let's look at Mark chapter 14, verses 32 through 42. It says, they went to the olive grove called Gethsemane. And Jesus said, sit here while I go and pray. He took Peter, James, and John with him. And he became deeply troubled and distressed. Now I want to put some emphasis on that. Jesus became deeply troubled and distressed. Now we're talking about the same Jesus that when there was a storm that was rocking the boat so bad, the guys were getting sick, and they didn't know what to do, and they went to call on Jesus for help. What was he doing? He was sleeping. Now, I would say that Jesus was pretty calm. Matter of fact, somebody said there's 3 things Jesus never did. He never hurried, he never worried, and he never doubted the outcome. Because he always knew what was going to happen. But Jesus is troubled and distressed. Because he knows what's about to happen. He knows he's going to taste human pain. And he knows he's about to taste human death. So he takes his most trusted group of men with him. He takes the inner circle of the disciples with him. He takes people that he knows would give him the shirt off their backs. He says, help me. Verse 34, he said, he told them, my soul is crushed with grief to the point of death. Stay here and keep watch with me. Man, think about Jesus telling you that. Here's this guy who's always in control. He always knows the answer to everything. He's always just never worried about anything. And now he's telling you his soul's crushed with grief to the point of death. Keep watch with me. Verse 35 says he went a little further and he fell to the ground. And he prayed that if it were possible, the awful hour awaiting him might pass him by. Abba, Father, he cried out. Everything is possible for you. Please take this cup of suffering away from me. Yet I want your will to be done, not mine. The Bible says when he returned, verse 37, he found his trustworthy inner circle of disciples asleep. grieving. He is groaning and uttering these prayers. He's going through one of his darkest hours. When he looks back and tries to find out what the disciples are doing, they're back there. I've been there. We used to, when I youth pastored in Alaska, on Monday mornings, we used to have Monday morning prayer at 6:30. In the morning. Nobody should be praying at 6:30 in the morning. And I used to come to that Monday morning prayer. I'd set my alarm clock for 5:30, so I'd get up and shower and get ready and get dressed. And I'd go into the chapel and I'd kneel in the front by the pew. And I'd put my head down in my hands. And I'd say, Father God, this morning I just... About 10 minutes later, the pastor said, Troy! I went, huh? You're snoring really loud. It's distracting us. Sorry. I called it intercessory sleep. I'm sleeping for the nations. Hallelujah. But I know what those disciples were feeling like. There's these times you're just so tired. And can you imagine all this time they've been with Jesus? And they've needed him every step of the way. And I bet in their minds they were like, man, Lord, if you ever need anything, just let us know. Have you ever heard those words before? You get sick or somebody dies, passes away that is close to you. And everybody comes and says, if you ever need anything, just let us know. And what they're hoping is that you'll walk away and say, oh, absolutely. They're not expecting you to rattle off a list of 10 things. If you've ever done that, they are shocked. Because most of the time when somebody says that, they don't really mean that. That's just what you say when you really can't do anything. Well, there's really nothing I can do, so I might as well offer my services. If there's anything I can do for you, next time somebody says that, call them on it. Go, sure. Yeah, here's what I need. I'd like a pot roast, and if you could go down to the store and get me some ice, and then if you run to the flower shop, I'd like a half a dozen roses. And then if you could, my dog hasn't been groomed for a while. Do you have a clippers? They would be like, I didn't mean what I said. But these guys finally get the opportunity to serve God. The God who served them. He says, pray with me. Stay up with me. Keep watch with me. And when they finally get that opportunity, it happens. It comes at an inopportune time. Lord, I'm so tired. God, I've been so busy. Oh, Lord, I don't know if I can. It's just, I've had a long day today. If you would have asked me last night around this time, it would have been great, but today I've been carrying stuff back and forth, and it's just not a good time. One thing that's pretty predictable about God is this. He never asks you to do stuff at the opportune time. He doesn't. The times when God has demanded something from me are usually the times when I'm out of strength, when I'm out of energy, when I have no motivation, when I'm lacking in everything, and then He calls me into service. And sometimes I wonder, why, God? Why do you call us at these inopportune times? You know what we've been through. You know what we're going through. Why do you call us then? The answer is usually because He wants us to do things in His strength and not ours. When there's times that I'm ready, oh God, I can do anything for you. You call me, Lord, call me and use me. Those are the times I'm probably, if he calls me, I'm going to be operating in my flesh. Because I'm depending on my strength. It's the times when we're depending on his strength that he needs us the most. That we glorify him the most. So he returned and found the disciples asleep, verse 37. He said to Peter, Simon, are you asleep? Couldn't you watch with me even 1 hour? Keep watch and pray so that you'll not give in to temptation. For the spirit is willing, but the body is weak. Jesus has given Peter a warning. Keep watch and pray. Your spirit is willing. I know you'd do anything for me. But your body is weak. Your flesh is weak. Then Jesus left them again. He prayed the same prayers before. When he returned to them again, he found them sleeping. For they couldn't keep their eyes open. And they didn't know what to say. Isn't it embarrassing when you fall asleep? Have you ever fallen asleep somewhere and woke yourself up snoring? And realized you shouldn't have been asleep there? Like an office meeting or a funeral? Worst thing to do is to fall asleep during a service where it's real quiet. And what was that? What was that? What was that? Don't shout amen when you wake up. It's like amen opportunity. So they kept falling asleep. It says verse 41. When he returned to them the third time, he said, Go ahead and sleep. Have your rest. But know the time has come. The Son of Man is betrayed into hands of sinners. Up, let's be going. Look, my betrayer is here. Here's the thing. Whenever you're in leadership, and you got people that you depend on, there's always going to be times when you feel like you're getting thrown under the bus. Here's one of those times where Christ has his inner circle, his most important disciples. And the third time he comes to them, he says, Well, you guys, it's time for me to go. They had no idea what was about to happen. Jesus knew in detail what was about to happen. Sometimes when somebody asks you for help, or sometimes when somebody says, Will you pray with me? Will you help me? Sometimes you need to have the intensity and the integrity to stand up with them and for them. Even if you don't understand what they're going through. Sometimes that's hard to do. Sometimes it's easier just to ignore problems or to get sleepy, to throw them under the bus. Jesus said, Look, my betrayer is here. I bet the worst day of Peter's life was the day when Christ was crucified. Here Peter had slept when Jesus asked him to stay awake and watch with him. That night when Jesus was in trial, Peter lied about knowing him and denied him. The next day he's taken, he's crucified, and he's dead. And Peter is alone. When somebody's dead, you can't ask for forgiveness. When somebody's passed away, you can't make it up. Peter didn't know that Jesus would rise again. But I imagine for those 3 days when Jesus was dead, Peter was tortured. Because he felt like he betrayed his best friend. Now, number 2, sometimes the reason we're not motivated is because there's so much to do that sometimes it seems overwhelming. There's a lot to do and sometimes it just gets overwhelming. Have you ever walked into a situation like, have you ever said, I'm going to clean out my closet today? And you open it up and you look at it and go, maybe not today. Because that's a mess. And the only way to fix a mess is to make a mess. People don't understand that sometimes. People look at you, you got to clean out your closet. If your closet's in the living room, your closet gets cleaned out, now your living room's a mess. Because you got stuff out there. And then every time you transfer your mess to somewhere else is a mess. You're never done. It's like a household project. You ever tried to fix something simple in your bathroom and ended up doing a remodel? It's like, oh, the sink's not working. I need to look at it. And all of a sudden there's like water shooting out of the side of your house. There's no such thing as a simple project. Because as soon as you tear that project apart, you got 5 other projects waiting for you. As soon as you take a wall off of something and see what's underneath that wall. So here's a solution. If you don't like doing stuff, don't do anything. The only problem is, nothing gets done. Proverbs 6:6-11 says, take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. I like the New Living Translation, you lazy bones. King James says, go to the ant, thou sluggard. I don't like being called a sluggard, but lazy bones, that's kind of cute, isn't it? Hi, Mr. Lazy Bones. Take a lesson from the ants, you lazy bones. Learn from their ways and become wise. Though they have no prince or governor or ruler to make them work, they labor hard all summer gathering food for the winter. But you lazy bones, how long will you sleep? When will you wake up? A little extra sleep, a little more slumber, a little folding of the hands to rest. Then poverty will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber. Nicole doesn't like it if I wake up before her. Because according to her, I'm annoying. That's right. Y'all know that. That's why you guys like sleep. That's why when you got kids at home and it's summertime and they sleep in until 2 or 3 o'clock, you don't care. Because when they're up, that means you gotta give them something to do. So as long as they're comatose, it's great, you know. The kids are asleep, yes. Don't wake them up. Well, she likes to get ready in the morning. She likes to have her me time, her private time. So she always wakes me up because I know that it's World War III if I wake up. If I'm just like up and around. Sometimes I'll wake up early before her. She's like, what are you doing? I'm just waking up. I thought I'd get back to bed. Okay. You know, I'll pretend I'm asleep and I'm really scared. But I'll sleep, and then she'll come wake me up when it's time for me to get up. She'll say, Troy, it's time to get up. And I always say the same thing every morning. 5 more minutes. 5 more minutes. That 5 more minutes doesn't do anything for me. Even if she does give in and give me 5 more minutes, I feel more tired after that 5 minutes than I did before that 5 minutes. And I'll tell you something else. There's no continuation on dreams. I mean, if I'm having a good dream, if I'm like, you know, man, I was sitting at the table with a hot fudge sundae, and I was just about to put the spoon in my mouth, and you came and woke me up. I need 5 more minutes. I got to get back to that sundae. You don't go back to that sundae. It doesn't work that way. But this is the lazy bones. That's what they want. They want a little more rest, a little more slumber. Just 5 more minutes, please. Just let me rest. Let me rest. We'll start this tomorrow. It says, then poverty, 11, will pounce on you like a bandit. Scarcity will attack you like an armed robber. Most of our parents had the same saying. Never put off until tomorrow what you could do today. That's right. And I used to like, why not put off till tomorrow what we don't want to do today? But the truth is, there's things in our lives that we need to tackle, we need to get done. And sometimes we're not motivated. And when we lack motivation, we dismiss those things. And here's the truth that you need to know. If you're not taking care of it, it's not getting better. If you're not taking care of it, it's not getting better. And if you don't believe me, I want you to do a simple exercise. How many can do a simple exercise? All right. If you don't believe me that stuff builds up if you don't take care of it, I want you to quit flushing your toilets for a month. See, some people are like, oh, I don't think I could do that. I don't think I could do that for a day. Well, here's the thing. Some people in their lives stink. And their lives are full of garbage because they're not motivated. And all it would take is just a simple change of mind or a change of attitude. And sometimes it's hard. It seems like you're facing a mountain. It's like, I can't do this. This is too much. A lot of times people want to be Christians. They want to live their lives for God, and they find out what godliness is and what holiness is, and they go, oh, I can't do that. But here's the thing. Sometimes, Jesus said, if you say unto this mountain, be moved. It'll be moved. But sometimes the mountain doesn't disappear when you wake up in the morning. Sometimes you wake up in the morning, you go look at that mountain and go, it's still there. But there's a brand new bulldozer in your driveway with a ribbon on it. You got to move that mountain one scoop at a time. Sometimes God gives you that motivation to do the work, and even if it just takes a little bit, just a little bit. If Peter and the boys could have stayed awake for 1 hour, just that first watch, Jesus probably wouldn't have minded if they got sleepy and fell asleep after that. But they didn't stay awake for any of it. And one of the problems that we have today is a lot of us are so unmotivated that instead of doing the things that we need to do, we put them off, and we put them off, and we put them off until they become monstrosities and mountains. And then we don't even know where to begin. Maybe you haven't called somebody that you need to talk to. Maybe you've put off an apology. Maybe you've put off reconciliation. Maybe there's a coworker that you need to talk to about something and you keep putting it off because you don't know how to deal with it. The longer you don't deal with it, the worse that the problem gets. You might as well tackle it. Excuse me. Number 3. Some people tend to lack motivation because they haven't seen the results that they hoped to see. Some people got a poor work ethic and they don't have the motivation to be motivated. Some people, they get overwhelmed and they just don't know where to begin. And other people lack motivation because they've been trying and it seems like they're not making a difference. One of the hardest things to do is to deal with situations that are difficult and to maintain and persevere through them. If anybody here has ever had a strong-willed child, it seems impossible that you're ever going to get that child to change. But you got to stick with it. You got to win. You got to break that little sucker. That's the truth. That's the truth. Because sometimes those kids can be strong-willed. And if you don't break them, they own you. And there's a lot of inverse situations where you see the kids are the parents and the parents are the kids. It's like the father goes to the son and says, "Can I have my allowance this week? Oh, I don't want to upset you. I don't want to upset you." Your kids are not that fragile. When you're dealing with a situation, when you're dealing with a strong situation, you have to be stronger than the situation that you're dealing with. And there's a lot of times we're dealing with situations that we're not stronger than. But here's the good news. We serve a God who is stronger. We serve a God who's stronger than our situation. Sometimes we lack motivation because we've been trying and we've been trying and we've been trying and we're not seeing results. And sometimes we're doing things in our own strength. Other times we're running out of patience. It takes time. Sometimes we run into failure and we think failure is a stop sign. Failure is not a stop sign. When you run into failure, you shouldn't run into a sign that says stop. When you run into failure, you should run into a sign that says do it differently. We saw in our little motivation video about how Abraham Lincoln went through so many personal tragedies and lost so many elections before he ever became president. How Thomas Edison had to try over and over and over again before he created the phonograph. There's so many things in life that if we don't persevere, if we don't keep going, and as Christians, we have a different outlook from the secular world. The secular world looks at failure and says, well, that's it, I'm done. But as Christians, if there's a calling behind what we're doing, we know that there's an agenda from God Himself, and He's not going to let us fail. He may have us do things differently, and He may have us reevaluate things, but if God called you to do it, He'll bring you through it. God will help you do the things that you do. That's why Galatians 6, 7 through 10 says, don't be misled. You cannot mock the justice of God. You will always harvest what you plant. You'll always harvest what you plant. Nobody's going to plant a row of beans and get a row of peas. That don't happen. Nobody's going to plant a row of corn and get a row of wheat. What you plant is what you're going to harvest. What you reap is what you sow. Those who live to satisfy their sinful nature, verse 8, will harvest decay and death from that sinful nature. But those who live to please the Spirit will harvest everlasting life from the Spirit. So let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Let's not get tired of doing what is good. At just the right time, we will reap a harvest of blessing if we don't give up. Do you know what the enemy wants you to do? He wants you to give up before your harvest. He wants you to stop before your miracle. He wants you to quit before success. Do you know how many people will get right to that point? Right to that point where they're about to have a breakthrough, or something amazing is about to happen in their life. And they've been pressing on, and then here comes the enemy with that discouragement. Well, look how long you've been working at this. Look how long you've been trying this. Look how long you've been doing this. And you are right at the threshold. Right at the threshold of breakthrough. Don't give up. For in due time, you will reap a harvest of blessing. It says in verse 10, therefore, whenever we have the opportunity, we should do good to everyone, especially to the family of faith. I was having supper the other day with one of the ministers in our district, and he was like, I need to tell you something. I said, what? He said, I love listening to Joel Osteen. I said, well, that's cool. You hear the, oh, that's what he was talking about. He was thinking I'd do that. He said, you know why I listen to Joel Osteen? I said, why? He said, because I listen to him. A lot of preachers said, oh man, he's off and he's this and he's that. He's not a theologian. He's an encourager. And I listened to him a couple times one day in my office, and I realized something. I said, what did you realize? I like being encouraged. It makes me feel good. And when I feel good, I act better. And I said, well, keep listening. But the interesting thing is there's a lot of times in our lives when we get discouraged and we need that encouragement. We need that motivation. And the thing is we have to start thinking different. when it gets tough, when the enemy presses in all around, you're about to have a breakthrough. And what you got to think about is you got to get your mind off of that situation and off of those horrible circumstances and think about the breakthrough. Think about what will happen when the blessing of God starts coming in. Don't let the enemy discourage you and make you think, oh, this is the end. This is all you've got. This is all you've got to give. There's always more with God. God can do all things. All things are possible to those who love the Lord. So today I want you to be motivated. I want you to be encouraged. I want you to be able to tackle some of the things in your life that maybe you've been putting off or you've been shunning away from. Today I want you to say, yes, Lord. I'm going to do that thing. I'm going to move that mountain. I'm going to clean that closet. I'm going to forgive that friend. I'm going to call that person I've neglected. Be motivated today. Don't let the enemy win by robbing you of the victory that God has already proposed. Keep on keeping on. Let's bow our hearts. So we bow our heads and close our eyes. This morning I just want to pray for you. I want to pray that God will motivate you to do the right things. That God will motivate you to serve Him and follow Him. If you got a mess in your backyard spiritually, I pray that you be motivated to clean it up. And if it's overwhelming, don't be overwhelmed. Let the Holy Spirit assist you. He'll help you. And you got a room here full of brothers and sisters that will love on you and help you and encourage you when you need it. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Let God work in your life. Let Him do the things that He wants to do. Say this prayer together. Father God, today I come before you and ask that your Holy Spirit will lead me to the areas of my life that I need motivated to take care of. Help me to love you and serve you with all of my heart, with all of my mind, with all of my soul. In Jesus' name.